Hey guys, it's very rare that I decide to go back and reevaluate or re-review something that I've nearly 100% sure made up my mind on. And that's doubly said for anything that's kind of close to my heart, especially with The Punisher. I adore The Punisher. I adore the character of Frank Castle. I adore the comic book runs of both Garth Ennis and Jason Aaron. They done a fantastic job bringing The Punisher from the 616 universe into the Max universe, and they made him a more gritty and believable character. And I think it's kind of a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to The Punisher with his live action appearances. Not so much with the Netflix series and his appearance in Daredevil. I think John Bernthal knocked it out of the park. But the prior movies, for every one thing they get right, they get about 3 or 4 things wrong, which totally cripples the character. 9 times out of 10, the representation of Frank is really well done. I think Ray Stevenson, Thomas Jane, and even for the most part, I'm going to be done with heresy, Dolph Lundgren done a good job portraying Frank. And I do think that out of all these live action interpretations, the 89 movie is the one that gets the most bollocking. And I myself was not a fan of this movie. I had a lot of issues. I still have a lot of issues. But I think in this day and age where we have the likes of the MCU and we had the likes of the Spider-Man, the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, this movie kind of got slotted into the kind of the pocket where, say, the terrible 90s Captain America or Fantastic Four movies came out, or even Howard the Duck, because again, this is 89. This is 1989. This is obviously pre MCU, pre the X-Men movies, pre Raimi Spider-Man movies, and yeah, it kind of got pocketed in with the Nick Fury movie, the Captain America movie, which were very cheesy. This, after going back and looking at it, is a fairly solid flick. It's not fantastic. It is riddled with issues, and I'm not going to defend its kind of shortcomings, because there is a lot, but there is some fantastic stuff kind of peppered throughout that makes this a fairly indelible Punisher movie. One thing I will tell you is, if you can, try and track down a Workprint edition. The Workprint edition was released on the German copy. I had to buy myself the German copy of The Punisher. And it fleshes out the relationship between Frank and his partner, played by Louis Gossett Jr., way more. It really kind of humanizes Frank way more. We spend more time with his family. We spend more time with Louis Gossett Jr.'s character. He's his partner, Buddy Ansky, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, there's a great kind of camaraderie there. I'm not going to lie, they really pushed the kind of buddy cop aspect in the Workprint, so much so that it's like, oh my god, this is like a carbon copy of Lethal Weapon. But it works. It works. The funny thing is, in the Workprint edition of this, they had to use tempo music because this wasn't the final edition. So they actually put in the kind of jazz sax kind of riff from Lethal Weapon in the scenes where Frank and Louis Gossett Jr. are kind of doing the whole buddy cop thing. And again, it's really good. We find out in the Workprint edition that, like, Louis Gossett Jr.'s character was a recovering alcoholic, and thanks to Frank, he actually kind of pulled himself out of a slump and became a better cop because of it. And there is this real kind of close friendship and budding kind of extended family. And it hurts Gossett Jr.'s character just as much as it hurts Frank when Frank's family is killed. And the Workprint edition also shows that Lundgren's Punisher, before he becomes the Punisher, is a cop who is just steadfast at his job. He wants to get the bad guys. He wants to nail the bad guys. But it also shows some humanity. For example, he stops this kind of mobster at the airport before he can go to a non-extradition country, and the guy's kid is there with him, and he tells the kid, "Oh look, go off with your nanny, and I'm gonna just need to talk to your dad." So there is a bit of compassion there as well, and you do see that they flesh it out, and I think in a way to sacrifice this stuff, this was all cut out for pacing issues. They lost the heart of the movie, and I think it really, really worked. The other cool thing about this is the unrated version, and it is gory as fuck. There is some really gory, graphic kind of death scenes in this movie in the unrated version, and I would highly recommend checking it out, because like Frank like puts knives through people's eye sockets, and he kind of like breaks necks, cracks necks, shoots people at close range. Just really gory and really violent. The plot itself is something fairly close to the Punisher stories of the 80s. Frank is going off after low-level mobsters, and then an outside element comes in this case, the Yakuza. I would have thought it would have been interesting if they had it made like The Hand, or maybe Wilson Fisk. Obviously, they may not have had the rights to those characters or those elements from the Marvel comics. This was before the time of like where artists and creators had to be credited, but at the same time, I think there would have been a lot of issues. Again, it's an interesting movie. A lot of cool villains. You get to see the Punisher like fucking lay siege to a lot of bad guys, and their kind of hideouts and stuff. He abseils through a window of a casino in Lethal Casino and just shoots up a bunch of slot machines. And like people say, oh, that's kind of stupid. Well, he also in Punisher Warzone, you had Ray Stevenson kind of doing gymnastics on a chandelier. So you tell me which is more ridiculous. But I digress. It's still a fairly good movie. The downsides to this movie is this was a New World Pictures movie, and it was the Australian branch. And my God, it's so obvious. So you have all these Italian mobsters who are trying their best to do the wise guy kind of, hey, buddy, get out of here. Yeah. But they keep on, it's like, hey, buddy, get out of here, you boo. It's like they slowly start veering back into their Australian accent. But again, it's an 80s action movie. I don't think this is like the perfect Punisher movie. Far from it. I think the best representation, as I said before, is Bernthal. If I'd say which is the best, maybe by a narrow margin would be the Thomas Jane movie. But again, as I said before, every of the Punisher live action representations has something going for them, as well as having something hindering them. And I think this is a fairly good depiction of the Punisher. But again, he doesn't have a skull in his chest, and most people, maybe I think most people might take umbrage with that. I don't think you need to have the character perfectly comic book accurate. And I know that there is a bit of controversy with the Punisher skull at the moment. So maybe if we do see another live action version of the Punisher, if Bernthal ends up in the MCU, we may not end up with a skull at all. So that might be something we might have to just get used to. But I think you should go back and check this out, because it's a solid action movie. If you can get the Workprint edition, it does a really good job kind of fleshing out the characters and makes it more of a compelling watch. Doesn't by any means make it a fantastic movie, but does kind of bolster it that bit more. And yeah, it gave me an appreciation. As for Lundgren as the Punisher, he's okay. Because let's be honest, Frank is not the most charismatic character in the world. I think the issue I had initially with Bernthal's Punisher was I thought he talked too much. But then again, his actions kind of solidified the character of Frank Castle for me in that. But I think Lundgren does a good job. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think it's a really kind of awful performance. And there is some nice nods to the Marvel universe as well in this movie. Again, this is 89. This is MCU. We're not going to get any kind of big cameos. But like, for example, Frank's two daughters are wearing Spider-Man PJs. That's kind of cute. And when Frank is going off to kind of like Collar a bad guy. His wife goes, "Go get him, Tiger," like Mary Jane. So I think all in all, maybe you should give this movie a go. Have a couple of beers, have some popcorn, have some mates over, and just have fun with it. Don't dissect it. Don't look at it like it's like a fucking an MCU movie. Just look at it like it's an 80s action movie. And if you can, try and track down the Workprint. So yeah, again, I'm glad I went back. I'm glad I revisited it, and I'm glad I gave it another chance. So have you seen the '89 Punisher? And if so, what did you think? Do you think maybe it's not as bad as you initially thought, or does it still suck in your mind? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, have a good one. Take care. Bye now.